Today's video is brought to you by Spike's Academy, which is launching a new course, The Art of Sideboarding with Seth Manfield, and the first 200 students can get 15% off with the code SIDEBOARDING. You can join the Academy at spikesacademy.com. Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another Instant Deck Tech. So as you know, Tuesday means it's Type 2 or Standard Tuesday, and while we're getting to the time in Standard's life, where we're like a month away from a set release, and there's not that much new stuff going on in the format, every once in a while, if you dig deep enough, you can find some spice. Like today's deck, Jeskai Reforged, an all-legendary Jeskai deck, looking to use Blackblade Reforged, an equipment being played in Standard as the finisher, and this one comes to us from Sakori Tomoyawa, who took it to a topping finish in a small Japanese tournament, so congrats to Sakori on a really sweet deck. A quick reminder before we break down Jeskai Reforged for Standard. If you enjoy this deck and you want to see it made into videos, take a minute, click the like button, the subscribe button, leave a comment, anything you can do to support your deck, because whichever deck is most popular gets a shot at being made into videos next week. So Jeskai Reforged is built around Blackblade Reforged, an equipment that has potential to be really powerful. However, it comes with a big drawback. You basically gotta only equip it to Legends, because while it's only 2 to a cast, it's 7 to equip if you're equipping it to a non-legendary creature, but that gets all the way down to 3 mana if it's a Legend. So our deck gets around this deck building restriction by playing 100% legendary creatures, so all of our stuff gets that cheap equip cost, and then once we have Blackblade Reforged on the battlefield, it scales throughout the game as we make our land drop. So in the early game, it's kind of fine, maybe giving like +3, +3, +4, but in the late game, when we have a bunch of lands, this is a massive equipment, turning any threat into a potentially game-ending attacker, giving it like +7 or whatever. So this is kind of the foundation of the deck. Since we're playing all Legends, we also have Mox Amber, which can be a little bit hit or miss. It does give us extra mana. In this deck, we have a couple of 2 mana Legends, mostly 3+ mana Legends. So really, Mox Amber is kind of a ramp spell that gets us from 3 mana up to, let's say, 5 mana, while also helping with like our equip cost on Blackblade Reforged, which is a nice little upside. So Mox Amber, a little bit inconsistent. We'll see what happens with War of the Spark. Once we have all the Planeswalkers, might be better, but for now, it's mostly just kind of a turn 3 ramp spell, getting us up to our 5 drops. As far as our legendary creatures, we kick things off with a legendary Grizzly Bear, essentially. Lavinia is a card that is really powerful in Vintage, pretty powerful in Legacy as well. In Standard, its abilities aren't super relevant. The first ability, making it so players can't cast non-creature spells with converted mana cost greater than the number of lands that player controls, that's actually kind of nice against Wilderness Reclamation decks, especially early in the game. Opponent can't have like 4 lands and do the tap, untap, cast a Nexus of Fate, so there's a little utility there. The second ability, countering things if no mana was spent to cast them. Sunbird's Invocation, I guess, Electro Dominance. There's a couple of things in Standard that don't really see played that do it, but really, Lavinia is just a Grizzly Bear that's legendary, so it turns on Mox Amber, it wears our Blackblade Reforged. The 3-drop slot is where we start to see more power in the deck. Daneth and Compassion, really sweet with Blackblade Reforged. First Strike, Vigilance, Lifelink. If we can get a Blackblade Reforged on it, that is a really scary attacker, hitting in for a bunch of damage, gaining us a bunch of life, and being back on defense, so a really good threat with our equipment. Tajik, scary off the top in the late games, thanks to Haste, where we can play it, potentially immediately equip it with Blackblade Reforged, and smash in for like 9 or 10 damage out of nowhere. Mentor, little upside as well. Squee, on the other hand, just gives us a Legend that is basically impossible to deal with. No matter what happens to it, we can always cast it from the graveyard, from exile, so we always have, at worst, a Squee to wear our Blackblade Reforged and keep our Mox Ambers turned on. Then, in the 4-drop slot, Aurelia is a pretty aggressive 4-drop, pumping our stuff, getting in evasive damage. Wrath and Shalai, on the other hand, are more defensive. Wrath can catch our opponent by surprise, we can flash it in on their end step, equip it during our main phase, attack with Blackblade Reforged, get in a massive chunk of damage. Also gives all of our historic spells flash, so every creature in our deck can be flashed in while our opponent's tapped out. Really nice in control matchups. Shalai just protects our other stuff, giving him hexproof. And then at the top end of our curve, Lyra Dawnbringer, mostly just a big flying Baneslayer Angel. We do have the Aurelias in our deck, but we're not really an Angel-themed deck by any means. But really, Lyra's strong on its own, and wearing a Blackblade Reforged is going to be like a 10-power flying lifelinker, which is pretty absurd. Niv Mizzet, really good if our opponent's trying to catch a bunch of spells. We draw cards, ping them out of the game. We don't have that many spells, but nice against decks like Control, Uncounterable, also good against Wilderness Reclamation. Zahid, Jinn of the Lamp, also works with Blackblade Reforged and with our Mox Amber, having these artifacts that we can tap and cast it for 4 mana, and a 4 mana 5/6 with flying is actually a pretty big threat in Standard. Otherwise, removal, Justice Strike, Lava Coil for the early game, Deafening Clarion gives us a sweeper, Chemister's Insight to help us churn through our deck, find more action, and that's basically the deck. As far as the mana base, a couple of Field of Ruins to deal with those annoying flip lands, some shock lands, some check lands, some basic lands. In the sideboard, we have more legends. Another Schlei to fight through removal. Baird is good against go-wide aggro decks. Well, theoretically good against go-wide aggro decks, but our deck really wants legends, so it's a little better in our deck than most because it is a legend. Captain Lattery Storm, pretty powerful, especially against control decks that might be able to get caught by surprise. And then we get that treasure left over, which does wrap us into our Lyras, into our bigger threats. A couple of Wraths and Citywide Bust and Settle the Wreckage. Shieldmare for aggro. Tecatli Honor Guard to slow down decks like Simic, especially Sultai, Hydroid Crosses, Explore style decks. And that is Jeskai Reforged. And that's been our instant deck tech for today. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, help us out by clicking that like button down below. And to keep up on all the latest and greatest, click that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell icon to get alerts whenever we have new videos. And if you want to, check out some of our other sweet videos here and here.